Hey there, Geekscapists. Welcome to a brand new Geekscape podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan London. If you downloaded this and we're like, hey, it's geeky, I want to hear about it, well, you're in the right place. I just hope that you've watched the entirety of the third season of The Mandalorian, because this, my friends, is The Mandalorian Season 3 special. Normally on a Geekscape, I like to sit down with a creative, like a filmmaker or an actor or somebody maybe involved in TV or video games, and comic books is a big one, and we talk like one-on-one, one-on-two, whoever is in the group, and we talk about creating these stories. Had a pretty damn good episode earlier this week, talking about this upcoming documentary, Selling Superman, and I talked to this documentary Alan, who is documenting this family that inherited one of the most valuable comic book collections in the country right now. It's actually called the Fantastic Collection, and it includes one of the two most valuable copies of Superman #1 in it. And it was inherited by this guy, Darren, and his family. Darren's also in the episode with Alan. And his father was, listen to the episode, he was distant, potentially abusive. And that was a pretty heavy episode. It was awesome. I love talking to them. And I got so much feedback from people saying, hey, like, this episode is awesome. We get to talk filmmaking, of course, documentary filmmaking, and of course, like, this family inheriting one of the most valuable comic book collections of all time. And then wondering, like, what do we do with this? How do we even sell this thing? So if you're looking for an interview episode, jump back one episode in the feed after you're done with this one and listen to the Selling Superman episode. It's a lot of fun. If you want to know what I thought of the Mario film, the Dungeons & Dragons film, hop two back, and me and my friend Angelica Trey talk about Mario and D&D and all that stuff. But this episode right here, you better be in the right place, because it's the Mandalorian Season 3 special, and Ian Kerner's waiting in the wings with his jetpack on, ready to just zoom in here, guns blazing. He even has like one of those flamethrowers that the Mandalorians have. Mandalorians are like Swiss Army knives of the Star Trek universe. If they need like a zip line, they got a zip line. If they need fire, they got fire. If they need this, they got this. They got it. All right. We're gonna be talking about Mandalorian Season 3 right after this on a brand new Geekscape. All right, Geekscapists, I hope you're in the right place, and I actually hope that you've watched all of Season 3 of The Mandalorian on Disney+. We got a lot to say about it, but there's going to be tons of spoilers. So this is your last chance to avoid the spoilers before, Ian Kerner, I cannot keep him back anymore. He's got the jetpack on. He's got the helmet on. He's got everything. He's ready. He's ready to zoom in here like a Mandalorian and just start collecting bounties. All right. Is that what Mandalorians do? I don't know. We'll discuss it. It kind of changed over the course of these 3 seasons, but we're mainly talking about Season 3. Again, last time, spoiler warning. All right. You said it. I'm unleashing Ian. This is the Mandalorian Season 3 special. Ian, get in here, my little baby Grogu. Oh, shit. You're actually wearing the Mandalorian shirt. If you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, you can see that Ian is flexing the Mandalorian mythosaur symbol shirt. He's ready to go. He's ready to rock. I think there's a siren outside my window, which means that Matt Kelly just added it. Yeah, Matt Kelly added another show to the Geekscape network. There he goes. There he goes. Congrats, Matt, on whatever Pop-Tart review show or Captain Crunch through the years podcast you started. He has these idiosyncratic ideas for podcasts, and I'm like, that's a terrible idea, and then everybody listens to it. All right, so Ian, we have not talked about the finale. We've kind of touched base a little bit on Mandalorian season 3, but I gave them a spoiler warning. They should have seen all the episodes. They should be ready for the Mandalorian season 3 talk. What did you think of this season? Because I think, well, actually, for season 1, we loved it. Season 2, things started to get a little bit.
But the end of season 2 was mind blowing for me.
End of season 2 is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, look, I know you hate that when they go back to the legacy stuff, you want it to be its own thing. So you had a mixed feeling about that, but it was still so pretty awesome. The Luke
Skywalker stuff was awesome.
And the setup, and that's what I really want to start talking about here is because we felt pretty sure that there was no way. In season 2, it was like, great, he's met Bo-Katan. You find out definitively what's the deal with he can't take off the helmet. Oh, because they're this fundamentalist crazy sect, and I think it seems pretty clear that Din Djarin's either going to have to, you would assume, evolve into not being so fundamentalist and probably come into conflict with the covert of what his former clan or his clan was, right?
Yeah.
And season 3 goes a different way.
Well, we also had the Book of Boba Fett. Did we just not talk about the Book of Boba Fett? Because obviously Din and Grogu
again in that chapter in the Book of Boba Fett, it's pretty definitive. He has to go, to redeem himself because he's up front that he took his helmet off, and he has to go and bathe in the waters of Mandalore.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and this is pretty she's straight up. The Armor's like, no, fuck you. I don't care how much Beskar you bring in, how much you give to the foundlings, whatever else. You took the helmet off.
I know you're trying to make a point, but every time you tap your table, we hear it. Okay. All right, so continue. Well, then make a point with your finger. Yeah, you're like bang, bang.
So
yeah.
So I mean, they're like, they don't give in at all, right? Is the way things seemed before season 3.
And then you find out that Bo-Katan couldn't even hold on to the leash herself in season 3. And she's stuck on the moon of Mandalore by herself, sitting on a throne.
Well, wait, we're not talking about abandoned. Right now. I wasn't talking about Bo-Katan. I was talking about the Armorer and the covert.
Okay, yeah.
Din Djarin's part of, and just how fundamentalist they are.
Yes.
You walk the way of the Mandalore. You don't take your helmet off, which is some weird ancient thing that we'd never seen before. So those of us that have watched, all the anime shows, everything else, are like, Mandalorians walking around without their helmets all the time in that stuff. And it's not like it's being ignored because it's Dave Filoni. So when we got the answer that, the initial thing when Bo-Katan meets Din Djarin is, he's one of those, and then you actually have the Armor explain it, in the Book of Boba Fett episode, but it's like, they're a very strict sect. So my feeling coming out of season 2 and that is, all right, really at the end of season 2, the way it's left is Bo-Katan's going to have to straight up fight him and take the Darksaber. Right. Yes. And that's, I figured. So you had that as well as, where are his loyalties going to lie? Right.
Yes. I was hyped for
this season. Absolutely expecting there's going to have to be a big fight, more Mandalorian Civil War. So I think it's important to set the stage for our conversation about this season with acknowledgement, right? I'm saying, so just for the sake of, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, I got you.
So we go in with that. And listen, and so great. So we start off the season. Din Djarin goes and says, "Look, this is what I'm going to do. I'm doing it. I'm going to Mandalore. That's what's going to happen." Bo-Katan told him, "No, it's you can go down there. It's fucked up, but you can go." So we see that. We see where she is. She has her little base, her little house, elsewhere on a moon, and he's going to go down there, right?
Right. So season 1, all he needs is an excavation droid to go down there and test the atmosphere beneath the mines because he thinks that they've been destroyed and they're uninhabitable because they've been abandoned. Were you a little disappointed in episode 1 that it was not even like a really catch-up episode as much as it was like, hey, we're setting a stage for a narrative that we didn't even need because the whole point of the purpose was to go and find a droid that could kind of handle the atmosphere of these underground mines of Mandalore, and then it turns out at the beginning of season 2 that he could have just used an R5 unit.
Yeah, I thought that was a little wasted.
It introduces the pirates. It does introduce a bit of the stuff about Navarro and where Navarro is now.
It moved Navarro forward in a big way.
Yeah, it moved Navarro forward in a big way, and
the suggestion of him as the marshal was also in there.
the whole season, I am just watching this, thinking about this Navarro episode, kind of like the Curson episode as well, like just kind of sticking out like a sore thumb. I'm like, all right, well, that episode could have been just lopped off. We don't really need it. The cloning episode on Coruscant, my biggest worry was that was good. Yeah, my biggest worry that was going to lead into the Palpatine clones of the sequels, and I was like, oh, they're really calcifying their commitment to that. Oh, great. But I got to tell you, Ian, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, I thought the finale stuck the landing, was badass, and it made episode 1. It paid it off full circle in the way that Navarro got their new marshal. Yes. You saw it kind of. It closed the chapter of these 3 seasons. I don't think there's going to be a Mandalorian fourth season. I think we're just going to go into Filoni's film.
I don't.
Maybe if it is, maybe he's doing.
I don't think you're right about that. I felt that. I was shocked that they closed, like they really didn't leave anything dangling. What they did do is they set up something else. What they did is they set it up so that now it's sort of back to the season 1. He can go on adventures with the kid, you know, and they've cleaned up all the things they set up.
Moff Gideon is settled. All that stuff is settled. Yeah.
What they've actually, I feel like we're sort of jumping ahead. I don't know if you want to cover.
Yeah, we are. We don't have to, but yeah. But I was just commenting that episode 1 of season 3 is very satisfied by episode 8.
Yeah, it's a clean arc without anything dangling. I was surprised they cleaned it up as much as they did, and going into the last episode, I really enjoyed it. It's a very fun episode. Generally speaking, I'd say I really enjoyed the season. I felt, and talking to other people and all this speculation, you get the stuff out there, in particular, and, getting into the spies. What's the spies plural? But we're only enough sure of one spy. A lot of people have been questioning the armor, and my gut was I kept expecting the armor to turn on Bo-Katan. Okay. So, I mean, I don't know. Do you want to go by episode to episode, or should we just?
Yeah, episode 1 just feels like it felt up until the season finale that it was just going to be resetting the stage, reintroducing everybody who's there. You're not going to satisfy this stuff really. You're just going to set them off, and it felt a little unsatisfying. It was like, hey, welcome back to Mandalorian. The second episode starts to add a little bit of what I call the wait, what the heck, like knucklehead factor, where Mandalorians, and you learn this later in the season as well, they keep getting eaten by prehistoric monsters, and it's like, well, no wonder the Mandalorians are completely extinct. Almost like a dinosaur could just walk up and eat them. They could just swim up out of the water and just start munching on them, or fly out of the sky and eat them.
You can argue that there's, I argue whether or not he's actually a Mandalorian, but this goes back to Jedi.
Like these prehistoric monsters, at least 3 times in this season, are just eating Mandalorians left and right.
And don't forget about the Sarlacc.
Yes, you have the giant turtle alligator thing in the second episode. Later, you got a pteranodon or something snatching a kid, and then later you have albeit a giant alligator, crystal alligator, but like it's still like guys, move. Like, you are terrible at these prehistoric monsters. Like, Mandalorians clearly got themselves wiped out of the universe, not because the mines were bombed or the Empire came in and blew stuff up, because Crunchy Munchies just came in and took them. And it's nowhere more apparent than the fact that, like, Din goes into these mines,
I think you mean Djarin.
And Din Djarin gets like thrown. He goes into these mines.
Right. We now know that Djarin is his first name, right?
And it's like, bro, no wonder y'all abandoned it. A bunch of cavemen with clubs were coming for your lunch, and like y'all couldn't fight off a bunch of cavemen with clubs. Help me out here. A bunch of cavemen with clubs. Ian, a techno spider, which was badass. That design was amazing. And a bunch of cavemen with clubs ran off Bo-Katan and the rest of the Mandalorians. Come on, man, as Matt Kelly would say. Like, how did that seem like a logic leap for you? That like the only thing keeping them from repopulating the mines in their ancient cities was that bunch of cavemen with clubs were in there? That didn't hold a lot of water for you, did it?
No. There was a bunch of stuff that seems. Look, I was starting to say that every time I think they're going to do a really complex and interesting storyline, it ends up just being very simple. And is that a complaint? Maybe. I sort of felt a little disappointed a few times. I mean, some of the places where they subverted my expectations, I was sort of happy about it. Like the idea of I didn't need my expected what do you call it? Civil War again, because that's what it's been.
And we're against the backdrop of a civil war. No, yeah, we get it. We get multiple civil wars in here.
Yeah. And Bo-Katan calls it out, but also we saw that in what do you call it? But those issues of both Clone Wars and in Rebels. We've seen a lot of Mandalorians versus Mandalorians. So her calling out, I really bought that. My issue is, yes, we get an episode. We see a couple of times Bo-Katan being a leader. Yes, her name is well known, so it's a given that she, in theory, she obviously has the loyalty of her former clan, the Night Owls, and everyone that was following her from what's called them the other tribe. But the Din Djarin's covert with the armorer, it seemed to me like the armorer just turned on a dime. Like all of a sudden it's like, well, she's done these things. It's not even discussed, right? It's just suddenly, hey, you know what? I'm just going to say to you.
Ian, what is that? Somebody's running a treadmill next door?
I don't think so.
Okay, keep going. Sorry about that.
But she's suddenly just going to be like, hey, you know what? You can take your helmet off. And she's like, guess what? Totally take her helmet off. She walks in both worlds.
Okay, so you both said you saw the mythosaur. Like, you can just literally walk up to the armor and be like, yeah, I saw the mythosaur too. I bathed in the waters too. I bathed in the waters.
And it's true. Well, no, he proved it.
But she believed both of them.
He proved it. He gave her the water that he was able to test. She tested the water and then took their word after they actually gave her water that came from it.
Yeah, I remember the test. You got me there.
So that was fine. That was fair. Okay. And honestly, the bottom line is yeah, he may have disgraced himself, but she doesn't really question Din Djarin's honor.
But you have the situation with the techno spider thing, which I thought was one of the coolest designs ever. That thing was the leader of the Mandalores for a couple hours. Am I wrong?
Theoretically, if it had claimed it, the same thing happened with Darth Maul. He claimed it, so it could have. Yes.
Okay. And like, at no point did Djarin want to be like, oh, by the way, I got knocked out and lost the Darksaber, and she got it. So you didn't want to bring that up until the Night Owls.
He's not claiming to be the leader.
But she wouldn't have brought that up before that situation with the Night Owls where she had to duel?
I don't have a problem with her bringing it up one way or the other. She wasn't trying to fight for it. She wasn't trying to take it from him. From her point of view, he had it. She had made it. Realize at that point in this series, she's checked out. She's not trying to lead anybody.
No, she's living on a planet with a robot.
Yeah, and it gets thrust back on her. Yeah, because she's burned. She just feels like she's failed. She has crazy guilt.
The Grogu rescue. Best part of the season? The scene where Grogu jumps in his pod and flies out of the mines of Mandalore and goes to get Bo.
I loved him doing it. Listen,
it was awesome.
Grogu stepped up a lot this season.
Grogu stepped up. He leveled up in a huge way this season.
To me, it's cool as shit when she's all like, "Oh God, what are you doing back?" And it's just Grogu, and he just walks up, and she's like, "All right, I'm coming." It's like you're not saying no to Grogu.
As much as I was like, okay, let's see where this goes with episode 1, and as much as I was like, are you kidding me? He's getting manhandled by a techno spider and a bunch of like cavemen with clubs. The second Grogu goes for the rescue, I was like, oh no, this is some TV we're watching now. Yeah, I like this. That was fun.
I was into that. I was upset that he got taken out, but listen, he's one guy. Yeah, he has armor, but he's one guy, and I think they show he's a really good fighter, but he does get overwhelmed. I mean, they don't have superpowers. So okay. I was a little bothered when it happened, but I liked it, and I liked that she came to his rescue. I
can still hear Ian tapping his hands, right? You're so passionate, Ian. All right, okay. So listen, the end of that episode, the mythosaur. It was cool finally seeing a mythosaur.
Yes,
that was nice.
So the question becomes: I thought we'd get more out of that mythosaur, and that's my question. And when you look at that in conjunction with the appearance of the mythosaur in chapter 24 and the return, my sense, and I feel like this is what the armorer said, is like it was sort of like an anointing. And I do think that for my point about the armor accepting Bo-Katan, I think it's important. I don't think they did a great job of really, I mean, you have the quick scene, but personally, I would have liked a little speech of the armor saying, not only can she work in both worlds, she's been actually anointed by the Mythosaur. Like, call out that really meant something.
But
and
Grogu
it meant
is the
something
one who
to the
connected
armor.
the Mythosaurs.
What's that?
But Grogu is the one who connected through the Force to the
At
Mythosaur.
the end, yes, but I'm talking about that scene. That's the thing that I'm saying is it's not really clear. I think what they're going for is the armor hears this story. They were in the water. She saw the Mythosaur, and the armor sees this as straight up, okay, the armor is like, a priest, and she's like,
the beginning of a new biblical chapter for them.
Yeah, and she's been anointed. It's that kind of thing. But
when the Mythosaur comes up out of the water and is like shown to be like an ancient dinosaur, how many Mandalorians does it eat?
Probably a lot. And that's honestly what I expected. When they first saw that Mythosaur, I thought that this is going to be on, and that's still sort of my question with that. Like, all right, but they went in a little different way. And honestly, I wonder if they left it vague with the armor, just so people would wonder, because my entire time I kept thinking, is this bitch going to just turn on Bo-Katan? Is she just setting them up to slaughter them? I just wasn't sure.
No,
now, I'll be honest. I prefer a story where she actually sees the wisdom of what Bo-Katan said, that
yes,
Mandalorians beat Mandalorians. That's how they die, because that was right. But it ended up being more simplistic than I expected.
So, Ian, when we get past that episode to the convert, the one that takes place on Coruscant, and it brings back the scientists from season 1, it brings back our loyalists to, from season 2.
I found that episode dull.
I found it a bit dull, and I was worried the whole time that they were doing this clone technology stuff, to create Moff Gideon clones, but to justify the sequels. So mainly episode 9.
I thought that too. And then something happened in chapter 23, The Spies, that made me think maybe not. That for me, chapter 24 explained. Yeah. I was really unclear at the end of the convert. Did she kill him? Did she wipe his brain? Does he recover from that? What happened there? And why would she do that? Okay. And my takeaway is clearly he helped with his cloning stuff, that Moff Gideon did exactly what he set out to do. I don't know where and when he actually succeeded, because he was still after Grogu, but apparently he did succeed and was able to make clones of himself and give himself Force ability without them being deformed and crazy and whatever else. So apparently we're just told that he did that. He succeeded, but they're all dead anyway, so it doesn't matter. Which is a little like, okay. I mean, literally that this is a major thing. And in fact, was the really big deal issue about why Snoke even existed and why it took Palpatine so long to come back. I agree. I did think that was the point there. And that's the connective tissue. And do you watch Bad Batch?
No.
So Bad Batch also has a storyline going on right now. But mind you, that takes place. It's only initially when Bad Batch starts in season 1, it's literally
like right after
Rebels. Like Order 66 happened at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I think that in season 2, some time went by, so we're maybe a year after, and
I saw the first episode of Bad Batch, and I remember the Order 66 happening during it. Yeah.
Caleb Doom.
It was awesome.
So in season 2 of Bad Batch, they actually is this base, and it's not clear to me is it the same one or not. Probably is, where they're doing experiments and they're still looking to work on the clone technology. There is very good continuity between these shows because it's the same showrunner, right? So I was wondering about that a bit. I think that the answer ultimately is that what we see is a certain amount of political intrigue between the Empire remnants. My personal feeling was, the expectation was great. Moff Gideon will then work for Thrawn. They name drop Thrawn. Then Moff Gideon does the whole power position move. Where's Thrawn? We haven't seen him. And I still felt coming away from this season before I saw the finale, okay, they'll still end up, Thrawn will show up, he's going to work for him. So seemingly they killed off Moff Gideon. Now I say seemingly, yes, because
clones.
I've argued this. Well, a couple of things. I don't think even in his Beskar Dark Trooper armor, he survives all that flame. I think he gets poked in
No,
the eye. You know,
a mini destroyer landed on him.
yes. But the argument's been made. We don't know. He still could have gone out. But also, clones, you don't know how many. What was really unclear to me with those clones is, well, are they just whatever clones? Or like, I understood the Empire transferring his conscience into a clone because he's like major, Sith abilities.
Yeah.
But a normal person, a clone's a clone. It's just
This
like,
Gideon did
look
not
at
have the
Boba
ability to
Fett
do
to
that.
Jango Fett.
Mhm.
It's raised and it has its own memories and its own personality and all those things. And throughout the Clone Wars, Rebels, and Bad Batch, we see very definitively you have all these clones and they're different.
They all have their own personality, right?
Yeah, they're genetic template and they have similarities, but they're different. So I don't know what they're doing with that. It feels really weird to me to think he did that, he succeeded, and it's just thrown away.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it is. I tend to be someone, I hate when people go like, oh God, I hate the jaded, they're just trying to sell toys. But I gotta say, like,
that suit was badass.
Well, but here's the thing. Every time you turn around, they have a new standard stormtrooper, and then it lasts for an episode or two, and then it's fucking gone.
You're talking about the ones on the jetpacks that we had here?
Now it's the jetpacks.
The Praetorian Guard.
It's the Dark Troopers. I mean, the Praetorian Guard.
You are definitely slamming that table, baby.
I tapped that time. But every fucking time you turn around, they're doing it again. I'm like, okay. Like, I mean.
How many toys is Ian going to have to buy here, Disney?
Well, that's just it. I said,
chill out.
I started buying hot toys. I'm not buying those.
Yo, the iPod, like, troopers that they had in here zooming around. Well, let's go back because we've been talking about Order 66, and in Chapter 20 of the Foundling, we actually got to see some Order 66.
We see Grogu get out.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah, that was
because former Geekscape guest Ahmed Best shows up to rescue Grogu and get him into the ship to go off planet, and that was amazing. I loved it. I loved seeing Ahmed Best, and I was thinking, I had a little bit spoiled on me that day that like Ahmed Best was going to make a cameo, and I got to tell you, no shame, I was hoping we heard a little Misa this and Misa that. I was hoping. I know, but I'm always hoping that character gets some level of Spider-Man No Way Home redemption. I'm hoping we get a little bit of redemption for that character. But ultimately, like seeing Ahmed Best as a Jedi come and rescue Grogu was the highlight of that episode. Because the rest of that episode is Mandalorians getting eaten by yet another dinosaur with the pterodactyls. And you know what? There were 2 or 3 pterodactyls that came to live with the Mandalorians afterwards. I thought they were going to come back. Remember that? Mm-hmm. They took the pterodactyl babies.
Yeah,
and
they
I was expecting.
They said they're foundlings, and we never saw them again.
They're foundlings. How badass would those guys have been in episodes 23 and 24 to have them flying around little mini pterodactyls?
Would have been cool.
Which would have been a shout out to the original
stuff. And that's like, well, what happened to that?
The Christmas special had, Boba Fett on a brontosaurus. Like, let's have Mandalorians riding dinosaurs. Why not? It's Star Wars. We can have all sorts of stuff. And now the Mandalorians
you get the nod to that in episode 6 of Book of Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay, so Ian, Chapter 21, the pirate. This is where the pirates are bombing Navarro. It's cool. The main thing that lingers into the other episodes, besides the Mandalorians come and they pretty much make sure these pirates aren't doing shit on Navarro anymore, and Navarro rewards them and says, "Hey, y'all can set up a base here." The truth is, I thought that they were going to do that, which would have been weird because ultimately Mandalore is their goal. Teva discovering that the Beskar armor was in the wreckage. Those are the new Dark Trooper pieces of armor, not a Mandalorian spy, correct?
Right.
Who rescued Gideon? It was Dark Troopers, new Dark Troopers.
Yeah, his troopers.
The iPod Troopers. Okay. Mm-hmm. Guns for Hire, another one that could potentially be like a spinoff. This one got a lot of slammed commentary because Jack Black and the cameos in this one.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, the Lizzo, Jack Black, that stuff was fun to me.
I thought that was fun. I get that was a little corny. I actually really enjoyed Bo-Katan and Mandalorian. To me, and by the way, that's exactly where I think the show is left for next season is instead of Bo-Katan, it's Grogu. But it's like that felt like they're on a mission. They're looking for someone. They're doing what they do. I know people are like, oh, who cared about that? I was like, that was fun to me. I enjoyed it. They were kicking ass together. It was fun. Not only that, that's a Star Wars cop show I'd watch.
It was a lot of fun. I thought that episode was cool. It was fun. And the one thing that troubled me was like the one droid that Djarin starts beating up on happens to be one of that like malfunctions. I'm like, oh, that's the one. You could have beat up any droid.
It was very coincidental.
That was a big coincidental. That being said, it's fun to have them run through the city, and I actually like when cameos are happening. Like, we got several cameos from Hollywood actors in this series.
What is it about this series that they constantly have cameos?
I loved it.
I don't know, but because they like it, I guess it's fun.
But wouldn't you want to be in the show? Like,
yeah, totally cool.
Even if it's a character that's like covered in makeup, like it's fun to have celebrities in this Star Wars series. Sorry, I'm coughing. Geekscape. I got it together. But the one thing that happens,
Pirate of Guns for Hire, where you really got tons more cameos, right? With
it was Guns for Hire. That's the Jack Black one.
Yeah.
Before that, you got.
I'm saying because you also got
who played the ladies' man. And
it's
the actor, and he shows up. He showed up earlier in the Convert, and you were totally into that.
And but I'm saying you get all those directors with the Republic base,
Mm-hmm.
Like Fujiyama. I mean, like so many directors and people like that, or cameoing.
Diallo Jackson says that only 8 episodes. They had like basically 2 filler episodes, for lack of a better phrase. It definitely had all the pieces of a good story, but like Ian said, it always ended up being simple. Side note: I thought one of the clones of Gideon might have or will end up to be Snoke.
No,
and he's out. I don't think it'll be Snoke. No.
Somewhere they've said that Snoke is a failed clone of Palpatine.
Okay.
That's sort of the idea there. That's part of the point that they had such difficulty making clones that have the Force, and that goes to getting to expanded universe stuff. That's one thing I love that Filoni's been doing is way back in 1991 they first published the Heir to the Empire book, the first Thrawn book, and at that time there was nothing else, and they actually said for the first time, because there had been comics and stuff, but the comics was always understood where it wasn't canon. At the time, Lucasfilm said this is canon.
Mm-hmm.
This is officially what it's going to be. And then there was books that went on for a long time. And a big part of that was you do cloning, you try to do cloning with Force abilities. They always go fucking insane and it doesn't work out well. So that was one of the concepts that Filoni brought over. Well, excuse me, I should say that they brought over. Filoni brought over others, but in that sequel trilogy, the idea that that's all Snoke is what JJ jumped into.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we all agree that what Rise of Skywalker ended up becoming, we all know that those 3 movies, there was no consistent vision. No. And JJ just came up with what he could, to, I don't know if we could say fix it, get it on track. Did that really happen? I'm not sure. But, and here's the thing is
the Rey series will fix it. The Rey movie.
Yeah, there's connective tissue. You have the little mechanic things, like, I mean, you've been having, characters and things pop up,
mm-hmm.
In these other shows, right? So, look, I can't say definitively that what's going on in the Convert. I think that base that we see, the idea of the cloners working for last vestiges of the Empire, whatever, that definitely does lead to Palpatine.
Yeah.
As for, I think it seemed anyway that they're not going to be able to use that doctor.
Oh no, I think he's a vegetable at this point.
Yeah, I think he's done.
At the end of Guns for Hire,
let me say on that episode that it's been suggested to me, and I think it's right, is that episode really stands out as the pacing, everything about it, and people have said to me, well, that's Favreau's attempt to show that he can make Andor. Yeah,
it was kind of an Andor-friendly show. But,
that episode had a very Andor feel to it, right?
Yeah, Andor pace, at least. But ultimately, I think that whenever Djarin and Grogu are on the show, you got to be careful of that on the Mandalorian, right? Even when you're focusing on Bo-Katan or some of the other Mandalorians, you gotta put the timer on, and you can't linger too long without the stars of the show showing up. The end of that episode, Guns for Hire did have the Bo versus Woes fight for leadership of that sect. I
love these fights.
Yeah.
I think these fights
I like
are
the
awesome
fights
every
too.
time they do them.
I mean,
I love the use of the jetpack, just kind of blast you, like there's flying punches and shit.
and Woves is a kind of a fun character, and he has one of my favorite moments in the finale with piloting this destroyer into Mandalore. And I'm thinking, okay, heroic sacrifice, and he's like, hell no, heroic sacrifice.
Do that.
I'm knocking out the fucking window and getting the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm selling more action figures.
A lot of people were wondering if he's not a spy. I never thought he was a spy. But a lot of people wondered that. And no, so the spies is a misnomer, maybe? Yeah. My other question was, the Mandalorians that they found on Mandalore. I mean, these guys are on the planet. Oh, we know exactly where the forge is, but we have no idea that there's been a base there. We've never seen any fucking TIE fighters come and go.
I don't understand how they put an entire base there under Bo-Katan's nose since she's living on a moon.
No, well,
she's living. She's in the same, like, she's living in the same.
You're making some assumptions. Remember, the sensors.
How far is that? But how far is that?
Sensors don't work on Mandalore. So unless they don't
work off Mandalore,
we don't know how far the sensors go.
Grogu flew to it.
Yeah, it's not
to rescue
far away.
Djarin.
My point
is not far away. Suddenly they're like, "Oh, right, giant, like
the fact that no sensors
fleet
work on the planet, all that I can buy." But the idea of the guys that are right there and they know exactly where it is, that I have difficulty buying. So that made me wonder if they weren't, spies.
You don't think the fact that like Bo-Katan can be sitting there on her throne in the same,
I understand your point. I just no
vicinity of this.
That one doesn't bother me nearly.
They're building an entire base and then stocking it full of dark troopers and TIE fighters.
You don't know how
clone technology
it is. You don't know what kind of sensor she has. You don't know.
She didn't have any sensors. For what I can tell, she didn't have any sensors.
Right.
Definitely wasn't looking at the computer sitting there stewing on her throne.
So there you go. So she doesn't know. And she's not even always there. No one said she's always been there. We actually literally saw that she wasn't there before. She's been off doing other stuff. She was building a fleet. She just came back there.
Ian, you know this from experience. You do not build an Imperial base and stock it full of TIE fighters and Praetorian Guard overnight.
We actually know that the Praetorian Guard only just showed up.
Yeah, for dramatic effect at the end of the fight to take out one guy.
Oh, but literally in the episode before,
right? He asked for it.
Yeah,
but same thing with the bombers.
He just asked for those reinforcements, whatever.
So they all came in at the same time.
As far as we know, none of that stuff. The base was there, but not all the ships and all the troops.
Praetorian Guard is one of my things where I was like, wait a minute, these guys only show up for dramatic effect to fight one guy at a time.
Yeah,
I don't know. Come on. Like, I thought about the Lord of the Rings movies when you have like an army of goblins or an army of orcs, and there's always like a troll amongst them kicking ass and like being like the big heavy. Like, I'd love to see the Praetorian Guard amongst some of these dark troopers fighting alongside them and being like let's steer clear of that one because they're badass.
And the way I remember they show up
comics, just to take somebody out. Yeah,
the old comics was this Crimson Guard. They were like they were basically the Royal Palpatine's personal guard. They were super trained. They were awesome fighters.
That's right.
And I mean, and I think that's still inherently that's what they're saying and doing. But but I agree with you. Why are these guys not actually fighting and doing?
They just show up, which is what I again loved about the finale in the fight with Gideon. You see the background and everybody's kung fu fighting in the background. I love the fight on the platform with Gideon.
I have to say, in the Spies, I actually really love that they did that scene with all the different, call them governors, whatever, this imperial council, and the idea of the sharing resources and moving it around. I think is cool. That they straight up call out let the Republic think they're just remnants, and that because that's the thing. And going to the old stuff that was canon then isn't this idea that there was a bunch of Imperial leftovers that that the rebellion becomes a new Republic immediately, but they have to fight them, and it takes a while.
There are skirmishes, and
yeah,
I mean
and
Thrawn name drop.
Jakku was a skirmish, and I think that's supposed to have happened.
You see it
around then, right? Isn't it about 5 years after Jedi?
You see the remnants of Jakku, and you see the Star Destroyers.
We see that. We see that in Force Awakens. Yes. But what I'm saying to you is, I think timeline-wise, we're getting to that around now, right?
I thought that Mandalorian season 1 was 3 years after Jedi.
I think it's 4.
4. Then then we're in it We're in it to win it.
There's a good chance we literally, maybe that's the movie, but we literally see that fight.
My issue,
like that Star Destroyer literally might be Thrawn's starter fight.
My main issue going into the Spies is Grogu is starting to take a back seat to a lot of this stuff, and like he's the highlight in a lot of ways for this episode. He's the heart of a lot of this stuff. And
well, if he
go
is,
from
then they reestablish him back.
I mean, Guns for Hire. He's bowling half the episode. He's not on screen. The Spies, he's kind of there. He gets his IG unit, and the yes no stuff was amazing. That's clearly my favorite.
And then he breaks up the fight,
bro,
between Paz Vizsla and Axe Woves, and that was awesome.
But
and
now we've got,
oh yeah, I didn't teach him that. That's awesome.
But now we've got this finale, and I texted Jim Pugranelli. I think I texted Andy Rattinger as this Star Destroyer is like coming down into the planet, and you got Gideon fighting, and you've got Grogu hopping around fighting, and that was just a badass episode. That was huge. That was the scale I wanted my Star Wars for the big epic climaxes.
I love every time Grogu uses the Force to just help. In
it was
the fight.
Awesome.
I loved it. It was great.
Him flipping around, jumping around. It's a little silly and fun, but I don't care. It's Grogu, and it is great. And you see him fighting, and then the Gideon stuff. And obviously, we love Giancarlo, but the Gideon stuff was awesome. And hearing the mechanized like hydraulics in his suit, and he's definitely stronger than anybody he's fighting. He's kicking ass. I can't wait for that toy to be on your shelf so I can come over and play with it. You're getting that action figure, aren't you? The Moff Gideon action figure.
I'm not sure. We'll see.
No,
here's my problem. My problem is this: like, it's you make a cool toy and then you kill the character immediately. It's like I was two episodes ago. I was like, all right, well, I was back and forth. I didn't get the IG-11 because I'm like, all right, what are they doing with him? I actually knew a year ago this IG-12 thing was coming.
Mm-hmm. He does like the Kang from Ninja Turtles. He gets split in the chest.
I knew a year ago. Someone had told me that someone toy wise knew that Grogu ends up in an IG-11 chassis, and cool, so I expected it. 2 fucking episodes. That's it.
You're gonna get more of that. You saw the ending. You saw the finale. You know they're gonna.
Yeah, IG-11's back, so he doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah, they're gonna build him something. He can be in anything. The guy's a little pilot.
My point is, so here's what they did about the toy thing. So you have the IG-11 they already did from season 1.
Yes.
So literally now they're going to do 2 more toys probably, right? You're going to get an IG-12 with Grogu in it, and then you're going to get a new IG-11 because now he has red markings on it.
And Ian, I'm going to tell you something. I don't know if anybody's ever told you this in your life, but I'm going to tell you to you now. You don't have to buy this shit.
I'm not going to. I just told you that. I told you that before.
Ian, you don't have to give into this.
This is my point.
Childhood ain't coming back, baby. Childhood ain't coming back.
Excuse me. You literally just said you're going to get it, right? I want to come over and play with it.
You're going to get it, and I'm going to play with it. But you don't have to.
Don't do it for my sake. I don't have to. I ain't getting it for you.
If I get the Moff Gideon action figure with the horns, black Vader suit, I'm going to see Giancarlo and have him sign it for us.
By the way, and that was a lot of people were arguing they really felt that the armor was going to go the way of being the spy from Moff Gideon because the helmet was the same. And my take on that was, well, the helmet is just reminiscent of the Mythosaur.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it has horns. Like, yeah, the Mythosaur has horns. That didn't mean that they were in league, but. Mm-mm. I don't know, man. It's a part of me wishes they did something like that because it would be so much more complex, and it's very simple. It's very straightforward. But I still enjoy it for what that is. Yeah, but I enjoy that for what it is.
Kids still have to watch this stuff. Okay, buddy? This can't be the fucking Wire.
No,
all right, pal?
And you're right. You're right. It is more of a kid's show in that sense. Listen, you say that, but then you get Andor. So, they're not all kids shows.
I'm going to go ahead and say Andor, my thoughts on Andor. It was a little too long, and for me, I like the Andy Serkis episodes. I love the pilot, but it started going like, hey, why am I spending this much time on a prequel?
I understand that.
But this season finale right here, that was my perfect Star Wars.
It's definitely a lot of fun.
My perfect Star Wars was huge.
To me, I like the idea that Mandalorians are back on Mandalore, and we don't know. Presumably, my gut. They'll show up in the movie to fight, maybe they'll get wiped out.
What movie are you talking about? Let's talk about this movie, Ian. Because one thing I didn't get at the end, last shot of the finale, and I love the way they did the iris out on the frogs for the very flash shot. But you have Grogu and you have
where's our
Din Djarin Where is R5 in that cabin? R5 is part of the squad now. Like R5 flew down into the mine, into the base.
He
He
didn't
hacked
bring it back,
the computer.
right?
He fought the mouse droids.
Yeah.
He knocked one of the mouse droids into
look,
the
bottom
suit.
line, he fully R2D2'd that shit.
R5 deserves to be on the team.
Yeah.
I think moving forward, if we see Djarin
did you have
Grogu, we need to see
R5D4, the old Kenners from the original movie? Because I did.
Yes. We needed R5. R5 deserves to be on the team. Tell Filoni, whoever's leaking this information.
People realize R5 that she's straight up from back to when, with the Jawas. Like he's that R5.
Yes. That's why he comes from Tatooine.
Yeah.
He's from Tatooine. Like that is it.
That's right. We got him from the Jawas.
The R5 needs to come back. Needs to be a part of the group. Cannot be discarded like that. Whoever you're getting these leaks from,
I may or may not get that.
Send it back up the chain. Send it back up the chain.
They made that hot toy. They made R5,
but
with the other.
Your contacts in Hollywood. Tell them. Send it back up the chain to your contacts.
I'm sure we'll see him.
Ian, talk about this movie. This is the one that was announced recently that Dave Filoni's directing.
So look, they told us a while ago that they had this plan for this big interconnected, set of shows, and they'd all come together in a big event. So now they've announced that big event is going to be a movie directed by Filoni.
What are we getting next?
They did not say when that's coming. We get Ahsoka next, the Ahsoka show, which looks for me as a fan of the animated shows, Ahsoka is just. I mean, and that it's funny. I see a lot of people talk about, well, do you need to watch Clone Wars and Rebels? I'm like, we don't need to. It just makes it infinitely better. And I know you're one of those people that hasn't watched it, and you have the opinion you do.
Not all of it.
But I so much better.
I mean, I see the characters, I see the comparisons. I know about the characters.
Clone Wars,
but I'll tell you that trailer was fucking awesome. The Ahsoka trailer was awesome. Amazing.
Listen, so you thought it was awesome just from what you've seen. I mean, there's literally stuff in there like where you have them just the way they pose and hold themselves. Things like Ahsoka twirling with the lightsaber to cut the ground at the fall. Like that's something that they do. Like she and Anakin and Obi-Wan do all the time in the Clone Wars. It's just like it's like a signature move kind of thing. The thing Jedis do to get down when they're trying to, do that covert shit. Like, it's just cool shit like that. It's like, wow, this is so cool. And then obviously to see these characters that for years we watched, animated to become live action, I mean, literally
stuff is what is most
it's Thrawn and Ezra Bridger. It's literally the whole idea of the show that when we got in the episode The Jedi in season 2, where she's asking, where's Thrawn? That's the mission at the end of Rebels, the epilogue of Rebels, literally sets that up. So
who's playing Thrawn, Ian?
Lars Nicholson. So
that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, who did his voice in Rebels? Okay. So they're already even thinking that way. Like, even when they cast, it's just like with Katie Sackhoff. A lot of time they cast voices of people that actually would look like the characters anyway. So look, I mean, here's the thing: you don't have to. I think you'll be able to enjoy Ahsoka perfectly well without having seen those shows, but it pays off so well. And same thing with Bad Batch. I mean, look, there's some characters that they announced the Bad Batch season 3 is going to be it. And they've introduced some stuff in Bad Batch that a lot of people that certainly fans of that show want to see come in. There's a character, Omega, that I want to know if Omega's still around and where she is. And I'd expect her to show up. Again, it's Filoni. And if he's doing one more season of Bad Batch, that's going to end. I think we see her in one of these shows.
What you honestly think we're going to get a Mandalorian season 4 after this sound like
this is what I think. I want you to recognize what they did in this episode. There was the Rangers of the New Republic show with the Cara Dune character, that went away because Gina Carano fell into disfavor. They've just made him basically a Ranger of the New Republic.
You're right. Yeah.
So they've essentially said whatever ideas they had for whatever they can do with that show now becomes Mandalorian season 4.
Mm-hmm. And how much of that first Mandalorian pilot was part of the Boba Fett movie that went away when they canceled that thing years ago?
Right.
So we're gonna go.
That's first of all. So I do think we get that. I also think in doing that they get to put. Listen,
could that be a Rangers of the New Republic show that has TIE fighters or has?
I don't think that's what it is. I think they stay with the title that's already working so well for them. But I think you get more of that. Okay, you get Zebediah Aurelios. Hopefully, you get more of him, which for me that was amazing. Because literally when I saw that, I was like, great. Well, that would have been the Ranger show, and but they're still doing it because, again, they're going somewhere directly. They're going to this movie that's going to bring it all together. When you say what? Well, all we used to know about the Rangers, that show went away. But so we have Mandalorian. We had one season of Book of Boba Fett. Do we get another season? Do we need another season?
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's fine. But do we see Fennec Shand and Boba Fett again? Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
We do.
Maybe it's in the Mandalorian. Maybe it's in Ahsoka. Maybe it's in Skeleton Crew. That's the other show coming after Ahsoka. That's also set at the same time.
Who's Jude in that? Law. That's Jude Law. Yeah, that's a live action.
Live action with kids.
That'll be cool.
With Padawans, with Jedi kids.
That'll be cool. When does that take place? Is it around the same time? And it's we're probably gonna see Luke in that. Continuing the school that we saw in Boba Fett.
Either we see him in it or it's leading towards getting to him, maybe.
Hey, Matt, slow down with the podcasts, please. Stop greenlighting podcasts. I can't have these sirens going past my window every 2 minutes every time you announce a podcast. We can't have
so here's the thing is, to me, where's this all going? I mean, do we get, I think, great, they made this announcement, this movie Filoni, but making an announcement means it's probably at least 3 years away. Okay. And I think we get at least one, maybe two more seasons of Mandalorian before that. I think Ahsoka's probably more than one season, probably two. Yeah. Uh-huh. Maybe not, but probably. I think Skeleton Crew's probably 2 seasons.
Okay.
And I think those all together, I think probably not another season of Book of Boba Fett. Right. I think because what for? Right. Personally, and I think I said this in the podcast, I was really disappointed we didn't get Kira and Crimson Dawn in Book of Boba Fett. Well, if you read the comics, which are canon, you see that the Empire did take out Crimson Dawn before Jedi. But Kira's still alive, so she can still show up somewhere. Now, the last time in the comics we've seen her as of now, it's shortly before Jedi starts. So it's about 5 years ago relative to the Mandalorian timeline. It's nothing.
Ian, the Caesar stuff with Red Sun, that was extended universe and was Shadows of the Empire. Did that stuff ever come back into canon?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. All right. I just have to check my childhood. Okay. So we
Mara Jade, not yet.
Yeah, not yet. But
can happen. Can happen.
There.
Here's the thing. So we're talking about this Filoni movie. So the other thing that you already referenced,
Luke has to be in. Luke has to be in that. Yeah, Luke has to be in that.
You would expect Luke in there. You can argue, do Han and Leia have to be in it? Not as much as Luke, in my mind.
Ian, it's like this little.
But you would think so.
This little Grogu bastard. He's still a Jedi, right? Like I know he picked the.
You don't know if he's a bastard,
but he's still a Jedi.
You don't know who his parents are. Yes,
but he's still a Jedi. Like it was that whole choice thing, the whole lone wolf and cub thing that they did in Book of Boba Fett. Like, come on,
that bugged me. Here's the thing. So
he's not making no choice. He's using the Force left and right.
Let me explain something to you. So Ahsoka, because you haven't watched all the animated show.
Yes.
Ahsoka leaves the Order right before she actually becomes a knight. She leaves because they basically threw her under the bus, and then they come back later. Go, no, come back. She's like, no, I'm over this shit.
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. There's a reason, her white blades. She took Sith blades that had been bled and she purified them. But it's also sort of a sign of there's a neutrality to it. But at some point, and look, when you see her in Rebels and everything she does, at some point she's in line enough that people accept, and it seems like she does too, except she's a Jedi. So it's interesting. She's had the training. There's a point in Rebels where she's in this sort of other dimensional thing. There's a point where she's communing with Yoda. I mean,
she's
the stuff you don't see. Yeah, I mean,
Grogu's
from my perspective, she is. Yeah,
Grogu's gonna ride the Mythosaur, I think.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I know. That's why I half jokingly said it.
Yeah, I mean, look, honestly, for the longest time, I thought Grogu was destined to end up with the Darksaber. Now, here's the thing: is the Darksaber destroyed?
It's pretty crushed, bro.
It's destroyed in the sense of it was 1,000 years old, and he destroyed it. But the crystal's probably not destroyed, so it can be rebuilt. Sure, it could be rebuilt.
Mm-hmm. Should it be rebuilt? It's for the leader of the Mandalorian.
Maybe not.
They didn't hint at it during the scene where they relit the forge.
Right, but it doesn't mean it can't be. Should it be a smaller hilt for Grogu? By the way, I don't know if you know this, but there's a knob on a lightsaber that affects the length of the blade. So that's why, Yoda, Yoda can't handle a big blade because he couldn't swing without hitting the ground, right?
I didn't know that. No. Okay, so Ian, we got a lot of stuff coming. I think that it's smart that Jude Law show has Luke in it. At least a hint of it. I mean, it's a Jedi Temple show. It should be in there.
No, he's getting these kids somewhere. So my assumption is he's trying to get them to Luke.
Right. So that we're gonna get a hint of that.
Maybe we don't get Luke till the end of the show. Maybe it's 2 seasons and we get him at the end of the second season. I don't know.
Okay.
You know.
Well, Ian, I think you and I, we're gonna see each other again in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We've got a little show called Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 coming. You're sitting next to me.
Okay.
And we're gonna go see that. So Geekscape is. I don't know what else we're going to add to the Mandalorian Season 3 discussion. Jim Paganelli said, I've been away from home and haven't seen the finale yet. My one question for you and Ian, one of the main criticisms I heard of the show this season is that it has lost its focus. The story arc journey of Mando and Grogu has been kind of pushed aside. Can't say I disagree, though I've enjoyed some of the divergence. Bo-Katan in particular is a great character, and Katie Sackhoff, we're getting to the questions sooner later. Katie Sackhoff.
Because what I want to say about that criticism is, literally they said, great, that's true. Yeah. They set up a bunch of stuff, they resolved it, and now they're going back to exactly that. Yeah. That's why I think you do get another season or 2.
He ultimately says that all these, the show need to go all those different divergent paths, and I think so, to satisfy these different shows that are going to come out of it. Yeah. It didn't water it down in the same way that I felt like the ending of it could have. You know what I mean? Like when you see.
Let me say this on to his point. What the show did is pick up plot lines from the previous animated shows. So for people that didn't watch those, well, what do we care about this? I get that idea. I'm not one of those people because I did watch.
He watched that stuff.
I'm saying, but I'm addressing the argument. I'm not saying he didn't care. I'm just saying that's what that is. We got introduced to this Mandalorian, and he doesn't take the helmet off, and then the covert, and they're also, crazy that way, and that's not what we'd seen before, and we got our answers. We got that explained, and in getting that explained, we got the whole background of the covert and all of it. So I actually like that, and we got to find out sort of what the rules are and what the deal is now. We got to see Grogu and Djarin actually become closer in terms of their bond and making it official.
He makes
by way of doing all that, right?
Yeah.
Like I think, and Grogu, he's part of the song. Grogu's part of the covert. He's one of them. He's a true.
And R5's just watching on the side, jilted.
Yeah, well, fuck that droid. But I'm just saying, he's a whiny bitch. But my point is just that. So I would argue that I think that for the sake of the mythology of the show, I think we did need that stuff. And now it's sort of like it made Grogu official. We had a bit of it before. Now he's in it. And now we have to see what that means. What does it mean to train Grogu to be a Mandalorian?
He doesn't need a helmet, though, right?
Well, that's honestly, I was literally thinking that.
If nobody else is going to wear helmets, why does he need a helmet?
He has a version of armor, right? He has his chainmail.
Yes.
But isn't it bullshit? Why, like the other kids had to wear helmets?
No, build him another robot. He's going to get another robot. He's going to get another flying pod. He's going to get a lot of cool stuff. And you're going to have to buy every single one when it comes to Target. That's what they're doing. They're not going to build more things for Grogu for you to buy at Target.
No, they're going to build a ton of this. I don't get the Target ones.
Okay. All right. Well, Ian, I look forward to talking to you in 2 weeks to talk Guardians of the Galaxy.
You're going to ignore Jason Inman about the Picard thing because you're just not into
it, right? So here's the thing. Waiting on Heidi for Picard. And we're going to binge them. We're probably going to try and binge them this weekend.
Yeah.
And over
for the record, in case everyone's unclear, I watched that shit at midnight last night.
Of course you did. I heard it's incredible, and I can't wait to see it. But it'll probably have to take place over the next week. What's hilarious is
I will say is there is a point where I cried a little bit.
When do you not cry? When LeVar Burton showed up at Heidi's birthday party.
That wasn't mine.
She LeVar asked about Picard season 3, and Heidi's like, "Oh, we're gonna binge it when they're all up," because so we are gonna binge it now that they're all up. We're excited about it, and I heard that it's a masterpiece this last episode. So, Geekscapists, look for Ian in 2 weeks. You're on the feed. If you're enjoying these conversations, you want to see more interviews, things like that, just tell your friends to subscribe to Geekscape, share it with them, and all that. Leave us 5-star reviews if you enjoy these conversations. Be like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna leave a 5-star review on my podcatcher," and tell people like, Ian's the source. You can't find Ian anywhere else. He's amazing, and he knows the nitty gritty on all these things, and he makes me the coolest person at the water cooler the next day because I'm just quoting Ian and all the knowledge. Ian downloaded me on all the knowledge on all this stuff, and I show up at Comic-Con and I know all this stuff thanks to Ian Kerner. Well, he's our resource. You are our audience, and let this be a resource to you. Share Geekscape, leave us reviews, all that stuff that helps us out. We'll be back with a normal interview Geekscape. Live, it'll be on Tuesday. That's when I scheduled for it. And we'll be back with Ian in 2 weeks talking James Gunn's finale in the Marvel Universe. Because the guy is all DC all the time. No, dude, I got to tell you, man, I have some serious apprehension to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
The holiday special made me nervous.
No, I love the holiday special, but I'll tell you, man, like the villain, the High Evolutionary, in the idea that James Gunn's going to tap into his horror roots and do some body horror shit is really freaking me out.
Well, he came out at Comic-Con, like in character, like they had done the same thing with Loki years before, where he came out in character as the High Evolution. Yeah, it was pretty cool. One
of my all-time comics is an Evolutionary War Avengers book, and it's one of my favorite. When I was a kid, I just poured over that book. It was a weird team. It had Hercules on it and U.S. Agent, and I just loved that book. But the body horror stuff that we're going to see in this movie is really freaking me out. And we'll talk about it in 2 weeks. Peace, Geekscape. Thanks again for doing this, man. Bye, buddy.
Cool. Bye.